What is missing for the boys Goten and Trunks to become strong and even surpass Goku and Vegeta? Whis, as always, is surgical in explaining what the two are lacking, and it's something quite simple. So finally, they're about to become warriors worthy of being Saiyans and take part in battles that involve great responsibilities. Want to know more about this? Then come with me. Stay tuned every second of the video. Go ahead and subscribe to the channel, leave your like, and activate the bell. Goten and Trunks are two of the most promising warriors in the Dragon Ball universe, although not yet fully explored. It's the same as what happened with Gohan, who always showed hidden power and was then pushed aside without being given Super Saiyan 2. And it's kind of like that with the boys, who had more prominence in the Majin Buu saga. Although they were more on the comic relief side, they showed an aptitude for learning quickly, and thus carry extraordinary potential that, if well explored, could place them among the most powerful fighters in the franchise. Since young, they have shown incredible aptitude for combat, being able to transform into Super Saiyans with ease, something Goku and Vegeta took years to achieve. However, despite their natural talent, both have weaknesses that prevent them from reaching higher power levels, more because of what they lack than something they don't possess. And this is exactly where Whis' teachings on evolution and maximum strength become even more relevant. Just as Gohan at one point surpassed Goku, now it could be the boys' turn. Whis, as one of the most mysterious and powerful characters in the Dragon Ball universe, has been a key guide in Goku and Vegeta's journey toward mastering ever higher levels of power. Since his introduction, he has shown deep knowledge of martial arts, key manipulation, and above all, the essence of true divine power. His words are always filled with wisdom, often said in a carefree way, but with deep meanings that shape the path of the Saiyan warriors. From the beginning, Whis emphasized that Goku and Vegeta relied too much on brute force and physical effort, when in fact, true power comes from the ability to control energy without waste. The first great lesson Whis gave them was about the importance of calm and refined instinct in battle. He explained that Beerus, the god of destruction, had such overwhelming power, not just because of strength, but because he perfectly mastered the concept of ultra instinct, a state in which the body acts on its own, without hesitation or conscious thought. Although Beerus has not yet shown full mastery of this state, his partial use of it already puts him on a superior level. Goku was the first to begin glimpsing this concept, achieving ultra instinct in the battle against Jiren. Whis always warned that to fully master this form, Goku needed to free his mind of distractions and anxieties. This is one of the points he constantly reinforces. Maximum power is not just physical, but also mental and emotional. Vegeta, on the other hand, took a different path. Realizing that his personality and way of fighting weren't compatible with Ultra Instinct, he decided to follow a new path, deepening his connection with the energy of destruction. Whis pointed out that, although different, both paths could lead to greatness, as long as each one fully accepted their identity. Another important detail that Whis always mentions is the need for constant evolution. He believes that Goku and Vegeta are still far from reaching their maximum potential, and that there are power levels they can't even imagine. For that, they need to keep training and refining their techniques, never becoming complacent. This philosophy is reflected in Beerus, who, even being an incredibly powerful god of destruction, still trains to maintain his supremacy. On several occasions, Whis has hinted that there are beings in the universe with powers that even surpass the gods of destruction, suggesting that there is a level beyond what Beerus has reached, and that Goku and Vegeta might get there someday. His words always leave room for mystery and speculation, making it clear that no matter how strong someone becomes, there is always a new tier to conquer. Throughout Whis' teachings, one thing becomes clear. Power isn't just about strength, but about technique, strategy, control, and mindset. The journey of Goku, Vegeta, and Beerus is still far from over, and Whis will continue to be an essential piece in this development, guiding them so that one day, perhaps, they reach the true pinnacle of supremacy in the Dragon Ball universe. Goten and Trunks are two incredibly talented warriors, but they also have some limitations that perfectly fit Whis' teachings about evolution and power. Since they were kids, they've shown a natural aptitude for combat, managing to master the Super Saiyan form without major difficulties, something that took Goku and Vegeta years to accomplish. However, their biggest problem has always been a lack of discipline and strategy, characteristics that prevent them from reaching a truly superior level. Whis has always emphasized that brute power alone is not enough to become a legendary warrior. Although Goten and Trunks have natural talent and a large energy reserve, they never had serious and structured training like Goku and Vegeta. This means that in prolonged battles, or against more experienced opponents, their initial advantage quickly fades. They rely too much on immediate power, and due to their lack of discipline, they've never developed a truly refined fighting instinct. A question I always ask myself is, if the two had participated in the first phase of the Tournament of Power, would they have evolved more than they have now? But that was a risk Beerus and the others didn't want to take, not wanting to let the weight burden the boys, just as it happened with Gohan several times, carrying the burden against the Saiyans, Frieza, Cell, and even Majin Buu. The Tournament of Power would have been a unique opportunity for Goten and Trunks to evolve significantly. After all, the tournament put fighters in an extreme situation where they couldn't rely solely on brute strength, but also needed strategy, endurance, and quick decision-making. These are exactly the areas where Goten and Trunks need the most improvement. If they had participated, they would have faced opponents with various fighting styles and power levels, forcing them to develop skills beyond simple explosive strength. The combat against warriors with sophisticated techniques, like Jiren, Hit, and even the gods of destruction themselves on display, would have shown them that it's not enough to just be strong. It's necessary to have control, discipline, and an intelligent approach to win. Moreover, the emotional and mental experience that the tournament provided to the fighters would have been crucial for both of them. Goku and Vegeta learned a lot about their limits and how to expand their powers, and Goten and Trunks could have gone through similar development. The pressure of the tournament and the need to fight without making mistakes would be exactly the kind of challenge that would force them to mature as warriors. If they had participated, maybe today Goten and Trunks would be much closer to becoming true elite warriors, like Goku, Vegeta, and even Broly. And who knows, maybe they would have even created a new level of fusion or a unique technique capable of rivaling the big names of the tournament. Do you think they could have stood out against fighters like Jiren and Hit? Well, against Jiren, definitely not. But against comic relief characters, maybe yes. And who knows, maybe they could have developed something to counter Hit's time skip. That would be epic. Anyway, one of their most striking strengths is fusion. When they become Gotenks, their power skyrockets absurdly, and they manage to use powerful and creative techniques that many other warriors don't possess. However, even in this, there's a problem. Gotenks often becomes too arrogant and playful, wasting precious opportunities to finish a fight. This overconfidence and immaturity prevent them from becoming elite warriors. If Goten and Trunks trained under Whis' guidance, or even under a master like Beerus, they could unlock massive potential. After all, they already have an excellent base. They just need to learn how to channel their energy efficiently and strategically. Whis, on several occasions, mentioned that Goku and Vegeta need to train without distractions and refine their technique, and this advice applies even more to Goten and Trunks. If they adopted that philosophy, they could become as powerful as the strongest warriors in the universe. If they followed that training mindset, they could unlock power, levels they couldn't even imagine. The very concept of Ultra Instinct, which Whis explained as the ability to fight without hesitation, could be extremely useful for them. As fighters who depend on speed and spontaneity, Goten and Trunks could benefit from this technique to maximize their combat efficiency. Furthermore, considering Broly's path, there's an interesting parallel to be drawn. Broly, both in the classic non-canon movie versions and in the modern Dragon Ball Super version, has something in common with Goten and Trunks: absurd power growth and the ability to adapt quickly in battles. However, the big difference is that Broly, despite his uncontrollable strength, finally began to learn how to consciously channel his energy. This is a great indication of what Goten and Trunks need: to learn how to master their power and use it strategically instead of just relying on the explosiveness of their attacks. If we look at Whis, he has always hinted that there are beings in the universe far beyond Goku and Vegeta's current understanding. This means there is a huge space for growth, and Goten and Trunks could explore this path if they were more disciplined. If they trained properly, they could develop their own techniques and stop depending exclusively on fusion to face divine-level enemies. Goten and Trunks still have a long way to go, but the potential is there. If one day they decide to take training seriously, they can become warriors worthy of competing with the greatest fighters in the Dragon Ball universe. Their future depends on the choices they make, and if they follow the advice of masters like Whis, they can finally reach the peak of their abilities and become central figures in the new generation of Saiyan warriors. When Goten and Trunks first faced Majin Buu, there was huge expectation around them. After all, two young Saiyans who had achieved Super Saiyan with ease and could fuse to create Gotenks seemed to be the key to defeating one of the most dangerous enemies of the Z saga. And in fact, for a brief moment, Gotenks proved to be incredibly powerful, with absurd moves and innovative techniques that made it clear that, in terms of strength, they were elite warriors. However, despite their raw talent, they lacked maturity. Gotenks relied too much on his own superiority and on the extravagance of his attacks, wasting crucial opportunities to defeat Majin Buu before he became even more deadly. When he reached Super Saiyan 3, Gotenks finally managed to seriously rival Buu, but even then his childishness and impulsiveness prevented him from taking full advantage of his strength. The fight against Buu didn't end well, because despite all the energy they had, Goten and Trunks still hadn't learned the value of strategy and discipline. A parallel with Broly here is interesting, because like Goten and Trunks, Broly also has an impressive ability to learn and adapt quickly. The difference is that while Broly always had infinite potential tied to his rage and survival instinct, Goten and Trunks don't yet have that implicit fury inside them. They have insane power growth, but they lack that emotional force that drives warriors like Broly and even Goku and Vegeta in critical moments. If Goten and Trunks adopted a more rigorous training method and learned to channel their emotions strategically, they could become warriors as formidable as the greatest fighters in the franchise. Just like Broly evolved and controlled his legendary form, Goten and Trunks also have the capability to go beyond what they've already shown. The problem has never been a lack of power, but rather a lack of a solid path to refine it. If one day they learn to fight with intelligence and purpose, they can become central pieces in a new era of epic battles. This would open the door to more mature and imposing versions of both, maybe even exploring new forms that surpass the limits of the traditional Super Saiyan. Who knows? Maybe even a mix of Ultra Instinct and Ultra Ego coming from the two. That would be epic, and they'd still keep that comedic style they've always had.